Hello and welcome to the Arise interview, where we take time to reflect on the big stories from the news and on the fortunes and affairs of the world in an hour of conversation with commentators, analysts and thought leaders. I'm Charles Anyegolu. Coming up in the next 60 minutes, fury and widespread condemnation from all sides, including fans, former players and politicians, to plans by 12 of Europe's biggest football clubs to form a breakaway self-governing Super League. The plans have set the 12 clubs from Britain, Italy and Spain against their national and regional associations as well as their fans groups. We have assessment from one of the English Premier League's former top football players. And later, closing arguments in the George Floyd murder trial have been taking place today. As the 12 members get set to retire to consider a verdict, the city of Minneapolis is braced and the nation holds its breath for that decision, the effects of which are likely to be felt well beyond Minneapolis, where Mr. Floyd died last year under the knee of the former police officer Derek Chauvin, who's accused of murdering him. We have analysis coming up. Now, there is uproar in the world of sports following the announcement that 12 of Europe's top football clubs plan to form a breakaway midweek Super League. The new competition, backed by an American investment bank, JP Morgan, has been met by outrage by many. Europe's football governing body, UEFA, has been holding a crisis meeting following the announcement of the proposals. The slogan of the new European League is "the best clubs, the best players every week." And those who form part of it argue that it'll help football at every level with more money and more competitive action. But correspondents say that the widespread condemnation for football's governing bodies, politicians, former players, as well as fans since it was announced on Sunday night shows this radical proposal is struggling to gain support.
If you're asking me what's desirable, I would say that world football needs to get its act together and put as much pressure on these clubs and the players to make sure this doesn't happen. And I would support some drastic matters such as barring players playing international football if they play for clubs who break away like this. So, but I mean, this is a very difficult route that's going to be followed, and will be complex and expensive and very divisive.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's like just greed taking over, really. I don't think about the fans. Like, how the fans going to travel to all the games as well, and it's going to ruin the money that gets passed down to grassroots football. It's going to completely destroy the whole structure of the English football. It's just they ain't taking. I don't think they're taking fans into consideration at all. It's all about greed and business.
Obviously, you're not going to have PSG in it or any of the German teams, so I can't really see it being good in terms of performance, etc. And also the calendar's packed as it is, so I can't see how they're going to fit it in without the domestic schedule agreeing to it, the Premier League, and also obviously the other teams in Europe that aren't in it as well.
My initial impression was that it was an interesting idea, but I like keeping the status quo. I think things work. Relegation and promotion are good things. They provide competition. Sounds motivated by money, by greed, which is not a good thing to be in the game anyway, and the foreign owners. So, yeah, overall, I think I'm probably against it.
Well, for more on the new controversial Super League, I'm joined now by the former English Premier League football player John Fashanu. John was a powerful centre forward, most notably in an 8-year spell at Wimbledon, in which he won the FA Cup in 1988 and scored over 100 goals in all competitions. He was also capped twice at senior level by England. And John Fashanu joins me now in the studio, in the presence of royalty, of course. You are the royalty.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Charles.
Let's go straight to it.
Yeah.
What is your assessment of this development?
Charles, let's be honest. This was always going to happen. You know, I remember many years ago, even when I was in the EPL, English Premier League, they were trying. When I say they, I see the media houses. They wanted to get something which was autonomous to them. They've got it. And it's happened. I mean, I heard what the ex-footballer for Tottenham Hotspur, Gary Lineker, was saying on television. He was saying, well, we're going to fight them, we're going to do this. It's impossible. It's about money. Charles, and we're talking about billions here.
That's a lot of money, isn't
There's
it?
billions.
Yes.
And there has to be change. One thing in life is there's always change. And it will affect football. There's no shadow of doubt about that. But these are the changes which have happened. And it's not because of the virus. And we've now suddenly said, oh, we've got to have change. This was always going to happen. It was just when, Charles.
It's very interesting what you say, because one of the reasons why this is so controversial and why what you're saying is right on the mark is the huge money involved. I mean, critics saying they'll take all this money just for themselves, and it's all about greed and not about the wider football community. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, Charles, I'm not going to deny that. Even as let's be honest, it's about football. It's about the greed of certain elements in football who are behind it. And as being an owner of a football club, which I was many, many years ago, you need money, and you need colossal amounts of money. So it is, let's make it clear, it is all about greed, and I'm sorry to say, Charles, it's all about money.
But do you support the move that they've made?
No, I don't. I'm saying here now, I'm sitting, watching on the fence, seeing which way it's going. We've got 12, or they've got 12 clubs which have said that they're going to break away. 12 clubs, they need 20, so they need another 8 clubs. And biggest clubs in the Premier League, the Bundesliga, Serie A, they've got them all. So what are you going to do about it, Charles?
Yeah, but it's very interesting that the German clubs, including Bayern Munich, who are the reigning European champions, have rejected the Super League, as have people like Paris Saint-Germain.
Well, I think, Charles, like Liverpool will tell you, Manchester City, Manchester United, it's about money. Once you go up another few billion, they can't say no. Because at the end of the day, each club has 40 players to pay every month. And if you've got a small crowd, which is happening now, the crowds are non-existent, how are you going to survive?
Now, it's interesting that the founding clubs of this new Super League say that they will continue to compete in their respective national leagues, but that's by no means a certainty, is it?
No, not at all. We're talking about lawsuits as well, which are going to be everywhere. But it just doesn't work like that, because they do have the best players, and they have very cleverly selected the best leagues, the ones you want to see. Inter Milan, you want to see Juventus, Manchester United. How are you going to call yourself a Premier League when you don't have Manchester United and Manchester City?
Absolutely.
You don't have Liverpool, you don't have Tottenham? Go and sit down. It's not going to work.
Well, the Premier League has hinted that they might take action against these clubs and even ban them from domestic leagues. But you're saying that's not going to hurt them.
Well, what I'm saying is the legal side of it is always there in football.
Right.
We're always suing each other. Those legal cases go on for 15, 20 years.
Yeah,
so
that's a
let's
good
get into
point.
litigation, and then we'll still have that what they want, and 20 years later they'll say whether they won or lost, and it will be about paying again money, compensation.
That's a good point. And those 12 clubs in their statement, they seem to have the legal backing that'll stave off any sort of punishment
For
or
years.
sanction, whether it's from domestic leagues or indeed from UEFA or FIFA.
Oh, no, definitely. There is nothing which FIFA, the governing body, can do to stop this right now. Even if they go to court, 15 years. Well, everybody's moved on by there. And as I say, again, it's the compensation which they want.
Well, it sounds like maybe FIFA are listening to you, or actually are cognizant of what you're saying, because we should say that FIFA's statement has not been as strong as other governing bodies. I mean, they expressed their disapproval, but didn't go so far as to say that they would sanction clubs or players.
Yeah.
What do you make of that?
Well, there you are. That's it's in a nutshell, isn't it? And let's be honest, Charles. This is not something which the decision has been made last week, 2 weeks. This was 2-3 years ago they were planning this. Those 12 clubs were together. You don't even know the other clubs which are getting together and coming together. Some of the salaries which are being paid for football players now is incredible.
Does that make you want to get back into the beauty?
Yes, it does. It does. Oh, I'm not going to lie to you, Charles. Oh, yes, it does.
But could all this, though, I mean, you've had a lot of experience
Yes.
with the Premier League, both in and out and around all the sort of the management and the money moving around. Could this be a bargaining chip aimed at getting a better deal from UEFA, a bit of brinkmanship perhaps? So if they don't get what they want from UEFA, then the Super League could become a reality.
I think you've just said it, Charles. I think not could be, let's take that word out. It is going to be a reality. There's nothing that can stop that now. When you have clubs like Manchester United, Tottenham Hotspur, Liverpool, these are some of the biggest clubs in Europe. And the other 11 clubs, which are enormous clubs. You can't fight that. The system cannot fight that. And if they do, they'll just go into a legal battle which will go on, as I've said.
So
for
they
years.
basically hold all the aces.
They hold all the aces.
Now, one of the things, the manager of one of those clubs, Tottenham Hotspur, Jose Mourinho, has been sacked from Tottenham.
That's it.
But one assumes there is no connection between this and the new Super League. Because initially we heard people saying, oh, well, he left or something because of that. But it doesn't appear to be any connection.
Well, at the moment, there doesn't. Joseph is a very good friend of mine. I know him very well. But knowing Joseph, it wouldn't surprise me if you now suddenly see he becomes the manager of another club which is in this particular league we're talking about.
That's an interesting point.
Yes. Everybody's shifting now. Everybody's trying to get the best deal for themselves. You know, Charles. Sometimes when you see the supporters saying, "Oh, it's all about greed. It's not about the," well, you're right, guys. You're right. I'm so sorry to say, it is about how much you can make. That's always been football, and people watch the game of football. It's the biggest game in the world today, and it will continue to be the biggest game.
John, you're an absolute star. You were, you still are, and you will always be. John Fashanu,
Thank you, John.
the former English Premier League football player there. And you're watching the Arise interview. Plenty more still ahead, including as closing arguments in the George Floyd murder trial take place and the jury retire to consider a verdict. America holds its breath for that decision. Stay with us.